Hello and welcome, everyone. It's Nick Michalak and the exceptional Steve Frazier.
Howdy.
And, we're back with Saw 4.
Ooh, it's been a minute.
It's been a while. We give a little time to simmer on the channel to see where things go, and just got the taste for it again. So, as always, we're doing the unrated version. So if you have the sort of 7-film, 8-film collection, that's the version we're doing. But anyway, we're up on the Blu-ray, so we'll be counting down with a countdown to get you synced up with our commentary, get your subtitles turned on, and we'll get going. So in 3, 2, 1, play.
You might not have a taste for it after we're done here. With this, here's where it really starts to go off the rails. I apologize that I still sound the way that I do.
Yeah.
I officially have a paralyzed vocal cord.
Oh,
so
that's not good.
One is working and one is not. I have no pain and no other symptoms, so I just sound like this for a while.
Yeah. Oh.
Apparently it's a nerve issue, so we'll just keep going, and eventually I get better, I hope.
Yeah.
So, all right, here we go.
Best of luck.
Thanks. I appreciate everyone's concern. I know I've gotten some messages and some feedback that says get better, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's been a hot minute since I've watched number 3. Last time, obviously, was with you here on the show. Mm-hmm. I had previously watched all of them like in a row when we were doing the first few. Mm-hmm. So the timeline is so fucked. I have no idea what happens when. If I recall correctly, this one happens at the exact same time as the last one, right?
They're overlap.
They're parallel.
Yeah.
Parallel. Okay. So.
With a little bit of a shell game faking you out here and there.
Right. There's trickery.
Yeah.
There's trickery, including this opening sequence, I believe.
Yes.
I always kind of like the whitewashed look that they use.
Yeah.
Both in the posters and in some of these scenes. I think it's cool. Yeah. At least it's distinct, right?
Yeah.
And there's a penis that we weren't expecting to see 30 seconds in. All right. I like that bucket, the basket on the bottom right down there was like bright yellow, and it totally was contrasting to this. Like the red is vibrant. See how bright yellow that basket is down there? Yeah. It's like it's off-putting.
That's peculiar.
And the mauve-colored thing on the back left, whatever that is.
Art direction trying to give a little contrast.
It's kind of neat, actually. Yeah.
You've seen better days.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at him. He's homemade surgery, and he's got a John Kennedy wound here in the back of his head.
He's got 3/4 of his head's cut off.
If you're not, if you're queasy about things
Don't
here,
be eating no breakfast watching this. Your eggs are going to be right back on the plate.
I mean, it's a good looking.
Oh yeah, the effects are fabulous.
Yeah. I think there was one of those like Faces of Death movies in the 80s that opened with an actual autopsy, so you could see what it was really like. And
those Faces of Death were so duplicitous in so many ways. Some stuff was real, some stuff was not. It was a lot of trickery.
Right, but I think that autopsy video, whichever volume that was, I think I had the box set when I was a kid.
For criminy sake.
It kind of like scarred me a little bit. Yeah. I was like, oh, here's what an actual. You know, at the time I believed all of it to be real, but
I mean, this is
look at this.
This is more than enough for me.
Look at this; it's so real looking.
Yeah,
it is kind of unnecessary, though, right?
It's like Jason Goes to Hell.
A little.
He's going to be taking a chomp out of the brain.
Oh God! Then he'll be Jigsaw, and then he'll pass the jigsaw on to the next person, like in Shocker.
That's what we need. Saw Shocker crossover movie.
As long as there's 9-year-old girls yelling "fuck," I'm fine. If you like Shocker and you haven't seen our commentary, it's available on the channel. Just go back in the archives and find it. It's tremendous. I believe it's streaming on HBO right now. Look at this thing. This is unbelievable. Crack him. Like watching ER.
Like a crawfish.
This is like the most disgusting.
It's like For it's number 4, we might as well get deep into it. You know, get right down, get the gore right up near the knees. Now.
It's gratuitous for the sake of gratuity.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
but they're also kind of like, there's no trickery here. He's fucking dead. We're taking organs out. Anything you see now is all flashbacks.
In your stomach, your stomach has blue gel in it? Is that correct?
I don't know. I'm not a medical expert.
Spoken like a lawyer. They did hint at this in the third one, yes? Like they showed it on the nightstand or something?
Oh yeah, they showed him.
There it is.
Well, yeah,
okay.
all
okay.
this.
See, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I remember from which movie.
It would take some effort. I have problems choking down a Dayquil.
Yeah, that's... I mean, this sucker is like a 2x3 inch.
Yeah.
That would
like a mini cassette. Well, it is a mini cassette.
Yeah, it is a mini cassette.
For fuck's sake.
He'd have an easier time putting it up his ass than he would swallowing it.
Well, this franchise kept... Whoever was manufacturing mini tape recorders... They kept them in business for a good 10 years.
Jesus Christ. I had one. Not because of this movie, or any of the Saw movies, but just because they were, I don't know, back when I could sing, they were handy for, you know. I can't sing anymore. Uh-oh. The game has just begun. Why? I remember this scene from the last time I watched the movie.
Yeah.
Why did I not remember that it was in
a mausoleum?
A mausoleum.
Peculiar location.
You ever been inside one of those things like this? Like this?
Yeah.
They're very interesting. Ow. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine any... I guess any of these games in any of the movies, it's like, well, how long did it take to manufacture this piece?
Yes, indeed, as we've been through.
I think that's kind of the moral of the entire chain. Like it's so unbelievable that you just have to suspend all disbelief, which is very difficult for me, as you are aware after listening to me talk 100 times on these commentaries. But the special effects are really cool.
Oh, yeah.
And so far, despite the lack of explanation of a setup, it's a very believable scenario thus far, where the blind man is just tugging, and this guy can see.
One guy can see, one guy can hear.
But he can't communicate.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're in trouble, dude. It would be so scary to be, like, inside, or, you know, to not be able to see.
Yeah.
As someone who has recently lost the ability to talk, at least out loud, you know, projecting my voice.
Yes.
I am so thankful that I have my vision.
Ah.
And I've always said, in this scenario, you know, I would much rather be able to see. Oh my, he's like a meat hook to the jugular there.
Yeah. Well, blood spray looked a little digital there. I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's interesting in this era. It's hard to say what, like, we're transitioning. This was 2007?
7 or 8? I don't know.
I'm going to say 7. We're transitioning from
7, yeah.
like the era of practical effects. Where like there was a good probably 10 years where there was a hybrid.
Yeah.
You know, where like it was half and half, and now we're kissing that era of all digital effects.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is kind of a hybrid. So maybe they tried to do some practical and said that didn't look as good as we want, so we'll just sweeten it. Yeah. Do all SWAT teams have these laser guns?
I suppose so.
It just feels so like movie prop to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like any actual cops have any of these actual weapons. Maybe I'm wrong. This franchise loves to just throw you into scenarios.
And try to have you figure it out as it goes along.
Yeah, like, we have no knowledge right now of who these people are.
Where they're trying to go.
Where they're at, what they're doing.
What led them here.
Right. What, exactly. Who are they chasing?
No context.
Although that is a sweet little robot gimmick there. Yeah. It's frustrating, I think, as a viewer. To not have any sort of, you know, you were talking.
You're kind of plunged into kind of a vat of darkness. You're trying to like, what's going on? Which way's up? Which way's forward?
Is that supposed to be metaphorical for the or I guess having the audience be a part of the game almost? You know,
maybe a tad bit.
But like we were saying with 2, I remember our having a discussion about the Wahlberg character in 2.
I'm sure. How I felt that the films jumped a little too far forward into the story from the beginning.
Right, like, oh, Jesus.
I didn't notice that the first time.
The rat?
Oh.
That there isn't, you know, they don't have enough setup for you to be invested in the characters.
Right.
So, if you're not paying attention, you might not even notice that this lady is the...
Yeah, I don't know. They got Dina Meyer back, but it's not the same hairstyle she had in the last film. She had all the kind of curled out hair. She looks more like she's grown it out, and I don't know.
So this is Detective...
Not like they need to have her specifically in the scene. They could have had any random stand-in.
Well, they don't really show close up, right?
Right, exactly my point. But the hair is not the same. Is my point.
No, I get it. So but then again, who knows what time of, is this years later? Is it...
right. I'm just saying, it looks like the hair is grown out and it's much flatter, and
especially
instead of regular curl.
When we find out later that it's a parallel story and this is happening at the same time, really.
Right.
So
the previous film
that makes it even less believable to your point.
Right.
So it is hard to know. Oh, hey, this. Yeah, remember from the last movie there was that pretty woman detective. Oh, this is her. Like we have no context.
Right.
We really don't intend this to be a bitch fest for the entire 2 hours.
It takes a little while to deconstruct how they're plotting out these films.
How did he have such good handwriting with that blood?
I don't even know if they even state how they ended up finding her here.
Well, no, they don't.
Knowing to come here.
I like Lindsay Perez.
Okay.
She reminds me of Rosario Dawson.
A tad.
You're right. It's so, or I'm right, or somebody's right. There's just so many elements that we don't know.
Yeah.
That the audience is like...
It's kind of...
What am I looking at?
The film's kind of chucking a few things at you at the same time in succession. And it's like you got to kind of dodge and weave.
dodge and weave is
whichever way you want to go with it.
Right.
You got to kind of roll with it.
Which one are you paying attention to? Which one of these stories are important? Are they all important? Is it a red herring?
Mm-hmm.
I like this observation.
Mm.
However, we just keep layering in accomplices,
right?
And this person was in on it, and I don't know. Like by the end of the series, there's 15 people,
right?
And maybe that's there's an army of Christmas elves assembling these traps.
There should be one in every major city in America.
Right.
And throw one in Toronto for the case.
It's like a franchise,
Right.
Saw traps are us.
Is it Saw Los Angeles? Is it Saw Boston? So it's Saw done in Texas.
Okay, so here's a problem I have.
Yeah.
That guy's holding a book.
Yeah.
So somebody's already written a book about John Kramer.
Yes, this all gets very confusing, extremely confusing.
So I actually, as you recall, I started writing down timelines. Yes. And I specifically mentioned in my note that somebody had already written a book about this. But we come to find out that these events take place
the same time
as the autopsy. Like, he's just been dead for 15 minutes by the time this movie's over, or whatever.
Right. This is... When we at least finally get into his game, that's happening parallel to all the stuff with the father going through the whole thing about the guy who hit the kid on the driver
from part 3.
The gauntlet
yeah. Thing. So how
no one knows that John Kramer's Jigsaw yet.
How has anybody already written books and published books about him at this point? It's impossible.
Right. I think they've gotten confused themselves in the process of jumping around the timeline.
Yeah, exactly. And as a viewer, it becomes that much more confusing because we're led to believe that this is happening months afterward.
That's the way they present it in the film.
And with hard evidence, such as a published novel.
Right.
Or nonfiction.
In number 5, it all feels like it makes more sense that would be the case, but here it doesn't.
That looks like a woman who's leaving her her boyfriend.
She's walking out the door there.
Well, maybe she's giving him an ultimatum.
Maybe it's time and space.
She's basically saying, I'm going to do this, and then you can either come or you can be a cop. Which I feel like is the moral of all cop stories, right?
Kinda, sorta.
They're married to the job and not to their wives. With the exception of Murtaugh.
Yes. Tap. Tap is like almost dark side Murtaugh.
Yeah. Now, again, I'm confused. We've already got his wife brought in. Now I get, okay, you've got your wife in the interrogation room, because at this point, he's dead. But he's been dead for maybe a day, in the storyline.
I'm still confused. I'm still trying to reverse engineer the film here. Because...
Actually, no. Because at this point, this story converges at the end with Hoffman killing that husband guy, right?
Yeah.
Who's from part 3.
Yes.
So that husband is, as we're watching this scene play out, that husband is playing his game.
Yes.
In the warehouse
with the
on the
ER doctor.
On the other side of town.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that John Kramer's anything.
Right.
This is I don't know what the word is, the turning point in this franchise where it goes off the rails and they're drinking.
Coherency dissipates.
They're drinking their own Kool-Aid, and so they don't. I don't know.
It's the whole thing of. I think it's the whole thing of. Screenwriter knows what they think they're doing, but they're not communicating what and how they're doing it to the audience. To a degree.
Well, yes and no.
And they're getting a little too caught up in their own trickery of faking at the audience and shuffling things around here and there to kind of play guessing games.
Like, let's make it confusing for the sake of being confusing, and at the end they'll be so, and it's that aha thing that I talk about all the time, where at the end, there's some little link and you go...
They're trying to be Shyamalan tenfold or something.
Right, who has only made one good movie ever, and that was Lady in the Water. Yeah, you can fight me on that too, at Elgin Film Guy on Twitter. I lost my train of thought. Because of the timeline confusion.
I can say I like their transition shots in this thing. They're really well conceived and executed. The little things they'll do, looking a little kind of panning shot that kind of shifts from flashback to present day, stuff like that, or whatever the case is. They really got those down really good.
I remember now. I was talking about that aha ending.
Sure.
That you can do a whole bunch of stupid shit, and then you link somebody at the very end where you go, "Oh, I get it." When you don't really get it, you've made a connection.
It's lit a little flick on you in your brain, saying, "Oh, that's shocking. It's surprising.
It all makes sense now," but it really doesn't.
Yeah.
So this franchise utilizes that trick in every single one going forward.
Yeah.
It's like, but the gimmick of the connective tissue ending has outshone the gimmick of the Saw games.
Yeah.
Like, let me make this confusing timeline, and you'll be so confused that you'll think it all works, and it doesn't have to work because you'll just be entertained by it. But the smart fans, such as us, and all of our listeners,
yes.
will go, wait a minute.
Yeah. We'll confuse you enough during the first 90 minutes of the film. The last 2 minutes will give you something like, oh, okay, that seems like something that makes some kind of sense because, like, you faked this out.
Right. Oh, I remember that character.
Explain the 20 other things that didn't make any goddamn sense anyway.
Okay, so here we go.
Let's get up on this guy.
Rig, and we've got my buddy, my neighbor,
D-Wall.
Wahlberg hanging, and we got Hoffman. Right, it is Detective Hoffman. He's tied up. All right, and he's got 90 minutes. Here we go. There's less than 90 minutes left in this movie, though. So it would seem that would be a fun gimmick. I love real-time stuff. Yeah. That's why 24, even though it wasn't logical, was such a fun show for me.
Yeah.
Because it was legit real time.
Mm-hmm.
How much elaborate setup?
Yeah. How long has he been out? Been drugged up for like a whole day or something.
Again, an elaborate setup here. Not only the pictures all around and the
apartment,
the plastic drapery around, the Dexter style like protective coverings. And really, what's the point of hanging up all of these photos?
Right.
To the point to Riggs' game here. Like, he's going to go around and study them and go, oh, she really is a whore.
We'll get to it a little later when Strom gets in here, but... You can relate to that.
As somebody with long hair. Also, there was one time, I don't know if I've told this story, there was one time that my hair got caught in the projector.
Yes, you did. I knew there was something.
It wasn't this bad.
Quite this bad.
It was just a few strands, but that sucker grabbed.
Your scalp was not going to be separated from your skull.
And I had a very small tuft get pulled right out of my head. And by small, I mean legit small. I mean, it was, a handful of,
not that much.
Very, very trace amounts. But hair was ripped out of my head. I can't even imagine how this would hurt. I don't know if that works. I think like a wrench or something would probably...
Doesn't entirely work for her, no. I
mean, just shooting it with your gun, like... How about you stick a screwdriver in there and...
Well, he went to the drawer in the kitchen. It's like they...
they took all the...
Time is wasting. He cleared all the other tools out.
I see. Right, there is no other tools, right. Well, stick the barrel of your gun in there then.
There you go.
And she's literally being scalped. I got one?
Like, one.
How do you know that's the first one?
Yeah, I don't know.
In what order are you supposed... In the Great Transition, like you were saying. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Hold on, he says.
Yeah, it's not going to stop her from freaking screaming her fucking head off.
At some point, you'd probably just pass out, right?
Probably.
She nude? Or topless?
No, she got like a sports bra thingamajigger on.
I thought that it just showed a bare breast there in the last scene.
Mm-hmm.
Plot twist. It is confusing. Everything is confusing. Right. And this editing is like, what am I looking at?
It's
it's a little quick.
Aside from those brilliant transitions, this film does need to calm down a little bit in terms of the editing.
Yeah, it's like
the film moves at a breakneck pace.
It's definitely had some top dollar toot. This film.
Yeah.
Because it's manic as all hell.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case.
I don't think you would be that vindictive about things. Malicious.
I think he's got other things on his mind.
Right. He's still trying to track down Wahlberg.
Again, I love a scavenger hunt as much as the next guy. A progression of clue to clue, so to speak. Right. I don't know though. The timing and the
it's
elaborate.
Also things like he has the of a perfect opportunity to just call up the rest of his police department and it's like, okay, let's all get in on this stuff. Having him run around doing all this. Why don't they get the fucking SWAT team they just had out here 20 minutes ago?
Yeah, he had all his buddies with the laser guns.
Right.
Let's get them involved.
Why is he required to do this alone? Why can't he just pick up the phone and call everyone in? He's seen better days.
Yeah, no kidding. Looks like a monkey.
Oh, his brother did Planet of the Apes.
I recall. He looks like Helena Bonham Carter did in that movie.
Fuck's sake.
All right, let's give you a little more backstory that doesn't make any sense. I'm still not sold on the logistics, the geography of that warehouse where they just kept going around and around in circles.
Yeah.
And now he's in a prison cell. Making friends with rats. And I'd have to remember the timeline between the events of 2 and the events of 3.
Well, we debated that because we weren't. There was no clear statement of it. The only thing we had to go on was that, okay, Amanda's hair is kind of shorn down a little bit in the second film. Now it's a little bit longer, so it was like, piece it together.
Months
just
later?
like here, it's like, okay, Wahlberg's hair is run about maybe an extra, like, I don't know, 3-4 inches, so maybe, I don't know,
but
4 or 5 months.
But his beard is only
right.
2 or 3 weeks.
The beard doesn't look like friggin', you seen Mick Foley lately?
Yeah, exactly.
For Christ's sakes, it's out.
Yeah, he looks like a homeless man.
Yeah, he's a fucking vagrant now.
Now, I want to know, who's taking all these photographs?
Right.
Because...
Well, who's the frickin' Wanell in the first film? He was snapping photos.
Well, sure, but that was part of his story.
Just on top of one guy.
That was part of his...
Just on Gordon.
His character, though,
right.
was instructed to do that.
Yes.
Who's taking all the rest of these?
I don't know.
Did they say who that other print belonged to? Was it Rigg or was it Hoffman? It was Rigg, right? It's got to be. Oh, is that a fact?
Yeah. This is like, okay, another point where they're just kind of jumping way ahead and like coming to a conclusion. It's like, he looked at these photos for like 5 seconds, like, oh, this is the person who doesn't belong. There's 70 photos in this room.
Yeah, how does he know?
Right. Of course, now we're, again, jumping things up, because now...
This is not the same Jill Tuck interview as was happening earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
Because we know... Well, we know now, in hindsight, that this is happening parallel to 3.
Right.
So that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But at what point would they even know that John was the person? Like, why would they have gone to her house to take all the stuff out of it?
And
they haven't discovered John as anything yet.
No. In the first and second films, they're trying to track down who Jigsaw is. They don't know. Tapp doesn't know. Erickson doesn't know.
Yeah, nobody knows.
In the third film, there's no real police presence at all.
It's all to set up
the investigation.
It's all to set up Amanda as the accomplice.
Yeah.
Was the point of the third one.
Yeah. So there's been no progression from 2 to 3 to 4 of them to know that, unless they're just, aside from them playing this game of the scene at the beginning with the autopsy is happening before the events we're watching now, which the ultimate show that is not the case. It's the inverse of that.
Right. And I forget, but I don't think that scene in the mausoleum with the blind guy and the deaf guy, does that really play any bearing on anything?
The guy with the mouth sewn shut is the guy here in the room.
Okay, got it.
With the two of them.
Got it, okay.
Because he ends up being, he's a lawyer who represented a bunch of people that come into, he got all these people off that Rig is going and doing all the games with. The girl in the apartment, the fat guy here and all that type of stuff. These are all people that this lawyer guy got off, and then he went into the game.
Okay.
With a sewn shut mouth. And now he's trapped into yet another thing to monitor all the stuff that's going on with Hoffman and Wahlberg. Because I was thinking the whole time watching until you get to like the last half hour, it's like, where does that beginning scene factor into anything? So.
I love the creepy mugshot, which I guess makes sense if they were all criminals needing legal representation. There would be mugshots involved. They rely so much on these little insert shots.
Right.
It would be nice if there was just narrative.
Yes.
Linear narrative.
Establish something clearly enough to
plant it
in your head, and you don't have to keep flashing around in the story.
And legit, that scene that they just inserted happened, 3 minutes ago?
Not
even 2 minutes ago? 90 seconds ago?
Yeah.
There's no need to insert, remind you. That's the kind of style that I think that they relied on that ultimately was their downfall in this series.
It's another thing that feels a little film school to me.
Okay, yep.
In a way. I mean, you can see someone who hasn't figured out the direct language of film yet is trying to
be artsy for the sake of artsy?
Maybe artsy, or just being a little trying to be too blatant about everything that they don't trust the audience to kind of catch on to things. They don't have enough confidence in their storytelling abilities yet to really...
Right. The audience is smarter than you think.
Yeah.
And it's very hard as a screenwriter when you know the end game.
Right.
It's hard to write slow.
Yeah, right.
And let the audience learn as they go.
Yeah.
When you ultimately know the end.
You have to find that sort of measurement of how much
to reveal.
How much between too much and too little.
That's the art of the screenwriter.
Right. If you give too much, you kind of make them detach in a certain way. It's a little overload in a certain way.
And if it's too obvious, if
it's too obvious, or if it's too little, they kind of like get too confused and they just shut off.
Yeah.
I like so much in all these flashbacks, before he even becomes like to the point of becoming Jigsaw, he still talks like Jigsaw anyway.
Jigsaw, yeah.
He's got the low, raspy voice and everything. He's not just like sounds like a normal guy. He already sounds like the supervillain.
And here we go again with more. Let's try to advance the story by showing you a flashback.
Right.
And
probably from this point forward, it's all flashback. If you want Tobin Bell back in the whole thing, you need more flashbacks.
Right. To justify his paycheck.
Well, you gotta keep him hooked in,
Top billing or first billing or whatever.
Right.
But it's kind of a cheap. I feel like it's a little cheap to always rely on new evidence in the closing argument.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how this feels. It's like, wait a minute.
Well, it's a little like the Elm Street films when we talked about those years ago. It's like every time we have another sequel, they have to move further back in the backstory to really reveal more stuff to move the story forward. And the backstory has to go back further to move the forward story further forward.
And it's kind of the same idea where you get that moment for the audience, to make them connect dots that don't need to be connected.
Right. It's
this obviously does that tenfold.
Right.
Compared to Elm Street.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's like, couldn't you just tell me a story as opposed to always having, like...
Fill in more pieces in the background.
Right. I would love the story to go forward.
And it's only just to introduce more new characters. You have to introduce his wife, then you have to introduce Hoffman, his stuff on it, then there's probably 3 other people down the line they have to fill back in to take on more baggage in the franchise.
Who would want to be married to this guy the way he behaves?
Yeah.
And this is his workshop that he's building?
I believe so. I'm still not certain how many workshops he's had the franchise at this point.
Is it one workshop?
I can't tell if they're all the same or they're all different, because obviously there's no establishing shots of the outside of these places.
There's no establishing.
To make them feel or look any different than one another.
You could have just stopped with "there's no establishing."
Right.
Of anything.
I don't know if the bathroom in the first film is attached to all the stuff in the second film, or the place where Amanda and him were in the third film. I have no clue.
They haven't established a timeline. No. They haven't established locations. They haven't established...
It could be some 5 square mile facility somewhere in the middle of the city that no one ever goes to. I don't know.
At the end of this, it's linked to some, like, meat packing company, right? Who the hell knows how that relates?
Sure. I don't want to go in there myself.
And let me take time to peruse all of these photos to find out exactly what this person has done. There's so much sizzle and so little steak.
Oh, yeah. I mean, literally, each separate trap would probably take at least a day to set up in the locations that they're planting them in.
Oh, and to figure out a way to close circuit the
the cameras and all the other crap.
This footage into this room,
into a freaking CRT TV, which probably has like a coaxial input in the back
from 1987.
Yeah.
Does Jigsaw like go into Radio Shack and say, "I need 38 mini cassette players"?
That's a small fortune.
Well, there's so much happening here.
Yes.
Like, I get the idea.
Yeah.
Like, I like the sentiment or the idea of this situation.
Yeah. Right.
But the execution is so, like, how does that video feed change hands like that?
Right.
I will say there's something that could be there for a story about a hotel worker who uses the hotel to commit crimes.
Yeah.
I think as a sub-story, that could be a whole feature film.
Yeah.
Even if it's a drama or it doesn't have to be a horror movie. I'm just saying, like, that idea is interesting to me.
Right. It's like a character piece. Character exploration drama piece or something like that.
Yeah, about just a sleazy hotel guy who uses the hotel to commit crimes.
Yeah, psychological thriller type of thing.
Sure. I think that on its own could be a cool thing.
Yeah.
Which I get that they've used that as kind of a throwaway idea. Is that another tape recorder?
Yeah. He has to give the message to Rig, then he's got to give the one to Ivan to tell him what the game is. I mean...
And all of these insert shots are just...
It's a little too much.
And, again...
It's a little just...
Neurotic?
Gets off the fucking pedal here a little bit, man.
The other thing...
Get off the gas.
...is... all of these are in Jigsaw's voice.
Yes, he set up everything. Which
means that he took the time to record all of them.
Mm-hmm.
When? We don't know. But clearly he's on his...
Alongside all the ones he gave to
the guy from 3.
I'm trying to make a short nickname for the guy from 3. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the...
drunk driver father.
Yeah.
Whatever the case, you want to call it.
Oh, shit. Oh.
Like popping the arms off of your action figure.
Drawn and quartered there. Like, where does one print all of these? You're in the printing business. Where does one print all of these little cards that are so uniformly made up?
Who's running out to sort of get more ink for that printer?
Oh, the old classic abusing father storyline. Oh, look at that.
It's a little blatant.
Jesus Christ. It's like on a bad dream sequence or something, that's so obvious.
It's really on the fucking nose. Oh.
Can't do that, sir.
No, just looking at Rig in the police officer's uniform, it looks a lot like Ernie Hudson in The Crow to me.
Okay. Yeah, back when Hudson, was 40 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
Who names their kid Gideon, by the way?
Gideon.
And again, here's another convoluted storyline, just to give one more reason. Look, so in the first one, it was cancer diagnosis that was the reason for everything.
Yeah, which was a clear, concise story that made perfect sense.
Right. Then we
valued the life you have because now he's at a point where he's terminal.
Right.
He's not going to have any more time left, and he wants to make other people feel that cherish the time that you've had. Then
we layered in the car accident / train thing.
Yeah.
I survived trauma.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna that's the reason, the thing that set him off on his journey.
Yeah.
And now that we're 4 films in, we're gonna layer in my unborn baby was actually killed by a drug addict.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that set me off.
Yeah. And then in Saw 5, we see his game. Then we see his game, and then we see someone else's early game or something like that.
Right, and it's just this continual connective tissue.
You gotta keep jamming more pieces into a smaller box.
Yeah, by the end of this, we've got 80 pounds of shit in a 10-pound sack.
Yeah, they just direct Bell to just play the character basically the same way. Before the tragedy happens, he's still kind of same demeanor, same way of speech, all these different things. It would be nice if they just had him look happy in the previous, in the back flashback sequences to see a contrast.
I really don't mean this to sound naive or cold-hearted, but Is a door to the belly enough to cause a miscarriage? I don't know.
I'm beyond my knowledge.
And I guess I wasn't asking you because I knew.
Right, I'm just saying, just so.
I honestly don't know if. I mean, the human body is very resilient.
Yes.
I mean, I've known stories, not personal, but, of like ladies that have perhaps fallen down the stairs or been in car accidents or whatever and had no damage whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And this is a swinging door to the belly.
Yeah.
Could they not have come up with something slightly more... Like, the guy was holding a knife.
More deliberate, more violent. Yeah.
He could have stabbed her or something in the belly.
Something.
Like,
Sliced her.
Is that going too far? Like, we can't show that on TV. You know what I mean? Like, we could show a whole autopsy.
As I said in a previous contract, this franchise does not know the meaning of too much.
We can show an entire autopsy at the beginning of the show, but I can't stick a knife in a pregnant belly because that's like murder of a child. And again, we can't kill kids. We can kill all the dogs and all the humans, but we can't touch a child. And an unborn child is even more off limits. You know what I mean? Like, where's this?
Well, that's all hot button stuff.
This dance that they're doing, I think, is hilarious.
Oh, hot. It was a hot 2 minutes there.
Sorry, what's happening in the movie? There's like a lot of clicks.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
One of our more controversial topics.
The thing is, Strom's, he's like 5 minutes behind Rig. He's already on this shit, and as it is. Why don't you just call up the FBI? They're already there. It's just a little... As if it has to go out. It's a little convoluted. Rig's got to go off and do it himself, because I understand that's the theme of his character. He needs to save everyone. He has to do it himself.
Well,
so it's just a little contrived in that regard, you know?
Yeah. They said, I don't know if you saw, but they said that the room was rented to the lawyer for the last 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, yes.
So that means that this has been at least a 2-week setup. You know what I mean?
But still, someone's got to smuggle all this shit in here.
Well, he's got 15 accomplices. We just don't know it yet.
Just an assembly line going from the front door up the stairs into the place.
Oh, God. I love all this stuff written in blood, and it's so perfectly done. Oh, that'll show him. Mm-hmm. Dun dun dun.
You gotta fix your monitors, pal. Your video connections are going on the fritz.
Is that his first line in the movie? Is that his... I think it is.
Possibly, yeah. I want an interview with D. Wahlberg here about making this movie.
I can take you to his house. We can just knock on his door and say, "Hey, we're writing an article. You got a minute?"
I got some research.
Maybe that crazy bitch will answer. She won't let us in.
I don't want to be anywhere near her.
Oh, there's the reveal.
Yeah.
He is just an awful, like, smarmy lawyer character. I think they did a good job writing him.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he's only in the movie for, a handful of minutes.
Yeah.
And they're all flashback scenes. Inserts, if you will.
Yes.
That guy also doesn't look anything like the guy in the mausoleum, by the way.
It looks a lot styled and different, dressed different, yeah.
Obviously, it's the same actor, but I'm just saying...
Yeah. It was kind of confusing at first because him and Hoffman look like they're fucking brothers.
See, I think that Strom and Hoffman look so similar.
They do too, yeah.
That I got confused.
There's a couple of these, they're a little too close in how they look.
As a viewer of the films in succession in the theater, where I legit watched them 1 year apart,
yes.
I couldn't remember which one was which.
All right, yeah.
Strom and Hoffman are very similar.
Yeah.
They're both cops.
Yeah.
It's not like one is the bad guy, even though this one is the bad guy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it's so, and maybe they did that on purpose. Like they want
in a close-up shot. It's kind of hard.
Do we need to replay this exact scene other than, you know what I mean, to show them that that's the location?
Again, it's the whole thing of like, we can't trust the audience to remember things for 5 minutes. We gotta remind them every time we jump back to something.
That is a great way of putting it. The filmmakers didn't trust the audience.
But also, when I was first watching this, like I said, the film goes at such a breakneck speed. There's not a moment to just kind of settle the film down for the audience to process stuff. It's just plot point all over the place.
Now,
jumping from one thread to the next. It's just like film doesn't take enough time to breathe to kind of like, okay, settle down, process the information you've just gotten, move into the next thing.
Yeah, you do need a time for the audience to develop opinions or theories or understanding of the plot points that have been told to them at this point.
Once you have new plot developments, the audience needs a little time to reconnect everything.
See how they relate to the ones that have already happened.
Yeah.
And was it necessary to start this scene and then 30 seconds in
jump back to the beginning
right.
I mean, just like the lore there, okay, they get the recognition between Hoffman and him, then they got a flashback to show their backstory instead of like starting out early in the film and showing a scene between the two of them that sets the two of them up, but then it connects later on. That's the way you typically would do it. You show the characters early on to set up a plot point, then you pay it off later on when they recognize each other and all fits together.
All of the story doesn't have to be told in the same manner.
Yeah.
If some of it is done this way, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the fact that they've taken every single storyline thus far and shown it both in current day, quote unquote.
We walk into the scene, we acknowledge the scene, then we fill in all the stuff that led up to the scene.
And it's been that way for at least 4 different storylines so far.
Yes.
I can't even begin to tell you how much this would hurt.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And it's also another so quickly edited scene that I don't know.
Yes, it just is. It's almost frenetic for the sake of being frenetic instead of just using it as an effective storytelling tool.
I don't understand how it's pulling them out kills one but not the other.
Right. There's no reason why that would be the case. They've both been skewered by it. They would still end up bleeding to death regardless. Or falling into shock.
there's so much
philosophizing.
Yes, great word.
Yes, yes.
Great word. And I get it. It's it's a moral commentary, I guess.
Yes.
On his part, but like we've kind of abandoned the entire idea that Amanda was involved at all.
Yeah.
At this point, you know what I mean? She hasn't even been in this movie, really.
Mm-hmm. Aside from the flashback of Wahlberg in the hallway being dragged off, and
now,
she's lying unconscious with her head wound.
Is that because her story is taking place concurrent with this one?
Yeah, most likely.
That makes sense to me. Like, okay, she's absent from this because, however, you can't claim that she was around and helping with all of, everything. Oh, but then we can explain it because Hoffman was involved in this, track.
But how is Hoffman still doing his job as a cop and spending 2 weeks setting all this stuff up in secret?
Right, like Amanda. So as it's playing out, Amanda has been doing her track of killing people maliciously.
Yes.
And Hoffman has been double secret agenting.
Yeah.
Both as a cop and as an accomplice. And we don't know if they know about each other yet.
Right. Well,
and
as I watched 5 already, it's like, okay, five establishes that Hoffman's aware of Amanda, but by no means does it make light that Amanda has any knowledge about Hoffman. Because they specifically have a scene in 5 where Hoffman disappears out of the room secretly, and then Amanda shows up 2 seconds later.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so... because we can't go... We've already had 3 films established where Hoffman's not anywhere involved with any of this, so we can't quite touch that stuff and have him... we've already set up Amanda as being involved with those stories in the first 3 films.
This is
you need to layer on other random crap on top of it for Hoffman to have his own crap to be dealing with.
This is one of those situations also, I'd like to point out, where we now have 15-ish, like, national news style murders taking place all within the same town.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, wow. That's a great little added jump.
Even there's like, it's supposed to be the unrated, because like you cut out of that thing pretty quick, and it's a really jarring edit that like, okay, she gets skewered, then you're kind of Strom reacting to it like it
But you don't know...
Like it just happened 5 minutes ago. It's the editing on this whole thing is really...
If all of that had happened in a wide shot...
Yeah.
Where you saw every character react.
I mean, that's a point where you could have, okay, that thing happens, and you just
breathe.
Have a moment where people just like...
You pause. In shock. Right. Like, you literally, everyone just stands there with their mouth open for a second.
We just jumped over the 2 minutes of that and just jumped into everyone scrambling around in panic. It just... As I said, as I was experiencing this the first time, it's like the film just... You just need to let things settle in and soak into the audience to just have a little something to...
Which, I will say, that is not the fault necessarily of the screenwriter.
No, it's the editor. It's the
editor and the director.
Choosing to compact everything that.
The director said, we're not going to shoot a scene this way.
Right.
Instead, we're going to shoot... the other way.
Right.
And then I'm going to have the editor, because really the director is the one who says how the edit's going to go.
Yeah.
The editor does the
And the version we're watching regularly on Blu-ray DVD, it was called Unrated Director's Cut. So there's no excuse on that regard.
Sure. I guess what I'm saying is the director has the final say. The editor actually does the work.
Yeah.
But the director has to approve it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody, you do film editing. Perhaps you would have, oh shit, there's another one. Where, this one's a little better. because they're...
How this is being edited together, yes.
And it may be only because she's a character that we know about. We have no idea.
We spent time with the character. She's been right next to Strom the whole time.
We have no idea what the other lady was even doing there. Like, what was her job? What was her name? You know what I mean? Right. She was just a person in the room.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I was saying, you edit video. You might have, as the editor, said, I'm going to put it together like this. And the director came along and said, this is a Bousman, right?
Yeah.
Oh, like 3, 4, and 5, or
the next one's David Hackett.
Okay, so 2, 3, and 4 are the 3 Bousmans.
Right.
Which, as I was telling you before, kind of act as their own trilogy.
Yeah.
Because they all center around this Amanda in the room, the hospital situation, and then this one taking place concurrently with that one.
Yeah, but it's odd. I mean, 2, 3, and 4 do feel kind of all different in a certain way. I mean, second one we kind of commented on how all these like retina burning, sickly, oversaturated colors and everything like that. Third film was a little bit more. It was a slower build type of film. It was much more of a character piece type of thing. It wasn't quite an assault. It was taking a little bit more time to develop its ideas and everything. And then this one's all kind of really rapid fire.
Hyper, yeah.
Really hyper and
manic.
And moving along and stuff like that. I don't know.
Which I don't know if that's intentional or if that's him learning as he goes of how he wants things to progress. And again, like, what is this? Is this? It's.
I mean, I can understand he's kind of in this shock trauma thing after she's been probably put in ICU or something like that.
But they have it in the color timing here.
Yeah,
makes it feel like one of the flashbacks.
It feels like it's not in the same continuity. Yeah,
right. And even this scene,
right?
How come they couldn't just have him have a breakdown and be upset?
Right.
They're using the manic camera edits to show his upset, his
state of mind.
Right. As opposed to letting him act it.
Yeah. Acting, let the guy act the scene.
That might actually...
You hired him for a reason.
That might actually come down, be one of the more broad strokes criticisms.
Right.
That we have about this is the style of filmmaking overpowers the acting and the screenwriting, really. Both. Neither of them have been allowed to do their job.
Right. Because my overview assessment of the Strom character, I think the actor's good. He does a good job. I think they kind of whittled the character down a little two-dimensionally.
Yeah.
He just feels like dogged-obsessed cop. They don't give him a time to really put a little depth, a little nuance into the whole thing. He's a little too straight, narrow, in a box type of thing.
Like, this feels more present day.
Yeah, this is relaxed. Feels more like a regular way you'd put together a scene. Because it's just a regular dialogue scene. It's not hyper intense. It's not a horror situation.
But look at the coloring on it.
Right, it feels more natural.
It feels like it's current.
It's less stylized.
And that last scene with Strom freaking out was like gray washed.
Yeah.
And felt like a flashback.
Yeah.
And this doesn't. This is a flashback.
Right. It seems like every storyline has its own sort of color saturation, color grading.
Yeah.
All the flashbacks feel fairly natural in how they're presented and lit and designed.
Isn't that so backwards, though?
it tends to feel backwards. Typically, when you're doing like flashbacks, whatever your preference is, but typically they'll do something to make it feel a little more dreamlike, or they'll try to do something a little bit more stylized in a
to show
way.
you that it's not the same time period, right? Billy has like a Beatles haircut here, which is
a little
weird.
mop toppy.
And see how this one's like it's washed out, but then this flashback is also washed out.
Yeah.
And
that's even more blown out.
And here we go. Let's just give you all of the backstories together. There's so much happening right now.
And
so many different stories that you're telling me, and so many time periods.
They could have decompressed the film by making it run maybe an extra 10 minutes. Give a little room to kind of breathe between the plot points.
Well, this particular story right here has 3 different time periods of flashback.
Right. It's the cancer diagnosis. It's the car wreck. It's the
building of the
building of the workshop and her miscarrying and the plot point with the lawyer and everything.
And the present day interrogation, which might not be present day. So, what? I'm so confused just in the last 2 minutes. Oh boy. That felt like a, let's pretend we're on a big street, but we're actually
we're in San Francisco, Chinatown. It's the fucking back lot.
It's the back lot, yeah.
It's the fucking alleyway outside the back of the studio.
Yeah, we're just going to decorate it to make it look like...
fucking corrugated steel and everything. It's like, fuck all. I mean, Chicago Chinatown is like 2 square blocks, but it's a lot more going on than this.
Yeah, this feels like an office party that's happening out behind the building.
Yes. At least like the thing is wearing this kind of dime store pig mask is a little something.
Well, yeah, because it hasn't evolved yet.
Right. It's a nice piece.
So, they're leading you to believe that this is the first
time he's done his game. And I just kind of realized we've kind of lost, because in the first one they had the little like jigsaw pieces or something that was like cut out of their flesh, wasn't it?
Correct, yes.
Completely gone. They haven't done that at all in the sequels.
And that was kind of a fun little...
That's where the name came from, of Jigsaw.
Right.
Fucking soul.
That's kind of a fun line.
Yeah.
But you notice how developed this workshop is right now?
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, if this guy just killed his pregnant unborn child, wasn't the workshop just being, like, rented or something?
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's just weird, because, I mean...
It had nothing in it a few minutes ago.
Yeah, we just had the scene of the wife walking around the place and everything, and I don't know.
It didn't feel this developed.
Yeah.
But this guy just killed his unborn kid, like, minutes ago. Or, within the last...
Weeks, maybe?
A reasonable time frame.
Yes.
But this feels like the workshop has been in use the whole time.
Right.
Again...
And he didn't do that over a weekend.
It's cool is what it is, sir.
Fuck all.
Oh, there we go. Oh, make sure to turn it with the Allen wrench just to make sure that we, you know. That's very elaborate, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, he has to like push through, right?
Yeah, he's got to push through the blaze to open up the shackles on his arms and his legs.
Now that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
It's different. It's ingenious.
It's not as convoluted.
I mean, it's going to hurt like a son of a bitch, but it's a winnable game.
And it feels pragmatic that he could construct this. It's a simple sort of tension pulley system in a certain way.
Yeah. It's, to me, and I know that we talked about this back then, but in our very first commentary, but the whole opening sequence of Nightmare on Elm Street,
sure,
where he literally dumps tools out of a bag and you see him constructing it, takes away any questions you have later on about
where it came from,
the device and how he got it. They've never once shown in any of the sequels, to my knowledge,
the construction of the traps,
the construction, or him even working on it, because there's no time for that. We don't have time. We don't have time to show you that. We have to do scenes like this where it's just like, thank God I'm not epileptic.
Oh, God's sakes!
So he didn't actually win. The chair broke, right?
Yeah.
So he got lucky.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, he's still fucked up. And right into the razor wire gag.
Now, is this supposed to be afterward?
Is this happening after that scene, or... This feels like this is supposed to happen before that, because again, all he's got is like a drafting table and a workbench. There's nothing else here.
It's this, like...
And he doesn't seem as sinister or anything like that.
Flashback within a flashback within a flashback?
Yeah.
What time is it? What day is it? What month is it? Where am I?
Yeah.
Now this does come into play.
This is in 5.
But was there enough forethought? Or did they just come up with something in 5?
It's just there.
We cracked the case. Maybe. Your son was named after his first building? Isn't Gideon a biblical name?
That sounds like it.
And how long ago was this? That he acquired his quote-unquote first building? Because he looks exactly the same in that photo.
Yes.
And they haven't really, really done a good job of explaining this either.
No. Because you're sitting there the whole time, it's like, okay, obviously, in retrospect, when we get you in the film, but you're sitting the whole time, it's like, when did Hoffman get kidnapped? Why has no one mentioned the fact that Hoffman has been gone for whatever length of time it is?
Right. Aren't there any police looking for him?
Right. No one's tried calling him, trying to find him. What's the deal?
But again, we don't know when this is or how long it's been since anything has happened.
Right. Time has no meaning.
Oh, he gets another line. He got "fuck you," and then that's it.
Hope he ain't getting paid by the line.
Nah.
I got no.
Not when you're Wahlberg.
No. You know where the catering's coming from.
I don't think they had Wahlburgers at that point yet.
They got the recipe, I'm sure. And just come with that shit overnight. Where's his backup?
He's the FBI, no?
He's the fucking FBI!
Come on!
It's like I just cracked the case. I know where to find everything. I know where to find the guys. Now he's calling.
You're just calling now?
It took you 10, 15 minutes to get here. Now you're calling for backup.
And you say I don't have 2 minutes?
I'm calling the fucking... Again, where's the fucking SWAT team from the beginning of the film? Come on.
This is one of those
guys with
things.
Fucking assault rifles with laser sights. Now's not the time for it. I don't know what is.
It's one of those. It's exactly the same as this thing that I hate when movies they do that all the time and in TV shows where two characters are in one location and something happens and then they cut and now they're in a different location and time has passed, but they're just picking up their conversation now.
Right.
And it's like, wait. You were together the entire time between point A and B. And
hold that thought for 10 minutes till we get out to halfway through the parking lot.
Right. And now we're going to continue. That drives me nuts.
So bad.
And it happens all the time.
Oh,
if you've never noticed it, and all of you folks that are listening, if you've never noticed that, look for it, and you'll never unnotice it again.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know who's coming through the door, and I've seen this 6 times.
Rig.
Is it Rig or is it?
It's Rig.
The FBI. Okay.
It's Rig.
Okay.
Because it ends up being the whole thing. Okay. Because Rig's the guy who keeps charging into things, want to save everyone. So if Rig doesn't charge through this door, the timer expires and everyone's just set free. Because Rig charged into everything, he's the one who's responsible for everyone dying.
Art is his name?
Art. There we go.
Oh, here's our fellow from 3. Whatever his name was.
Jeff, I think it was.
Okay.
I think so.
And so now we know that this Gideon meatpacking or whatever it is not only the site of the final portion of this movie, but is also the home of the entire third movie.
Yes.
Including Jeff's gauntlet and the surgery hospital situation that Amanda and the wife and Jigsaw are in. So this is a big fucking building.
Yes.
With lots of rooms.
Lots of tunnels.
Lots of trapdoors and...
lots of hallways.
Now granted, meatpacking plant, okay, fine. And again, they've not explained really, is Strom happening at the same time? Or no? Is
right, because as we were in the second film, where they're fumbling around with the timeline, all the stuff they were seeing with Wahlberg and Jigsaw was happening after the events they were cross-cutting with.
Right. So, is Strom and Rig on the same timeline? Are they on the same timeline as Jeff?
Yeah.
I think so.
But as the thing, again, as I said in one of the previous commentaries, they've already established a way of tricking you up with all this type of stuff. You're almost on high alert to overthink the whole thing.
I mean, what a shitty thing to do to make the audience so
second guess everything.
Right, like it's not even entertaining at that point.
Right.
There's so much information that...
So much attention for mass confusion.
You're like mentally drained.
Right.
And you can't even...
I see.
Oh, yeah. He charged the door.
Oh.
And he just got Wahlburgered. And there's no high voltage.
Mm-mm.
I forget how he came to have that key.
I had no memory. The only... Rig came across something with the hotel key, and there was another key there, but they didn't explicitly show that he didn't take the other key.
But I thought Rig took both keys.
That's why I would think so. There's Chunky.
And there's Amanda, who is not dead. Dead or not dead? This is a great game. Dead or not dead?
Oh, God. We haven't gotten an autopsy on her yet.
He kind of has a Stallone vibe about him a little bit.
Frank Stallone.
Sure. Oh, wow.
Oh, well, there you go.
So Rig really just is a hotshot who...
He's a hothead, yeah. I gotta do it.
Which isn't
I gotta charge into everything and save everyone and do all this type of shit he can't let go.
Isn't that kind of similar to the MO from Donnie Wahlberg?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not exact, but it's the
close
same,
enough.
The same premise.
Right.
That, hothead.
Yeah.
How about you learn to calm down a minute, take it back a notch?
Yeah,
now,
again.
Wahlberg, I think, was dirty and planted evidence or whatever, but...
It just feels like a lot of fucking convoluted legwork just to get to that point of him realizing it and not growing from it,
Like, at any point along the way, it could have gone wrong.
Right.
And this Rube Goldberg device of events.
Right.
Which isn't, not a physical one, but like him going from, location to location.
Right. I mean, a lot of these traps, all these different things, they come to a point of everything has to go exactly to plan to make sure everything happens when it needs to happen, where it needs to happen, who needs to be involved, make sure that this person gets here, even though you can't predict that this person is actually going to show up at this point in time for this to happen, for this to play out the way you want it to.
And again, here we're just going to show you a random 2-minute montage
of Hoffman doing all this shit.
And link it to the last one. And let's play the crescendo music.
Yeah.
Is he going to slam this door? Oh, I thought he was going to
No, he slams the door on Strom.
Oh, okay. Because I feel like we have to beat a dead horse.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, it's the whole thing is like, yeah, they have these little pieces of dialogue saying like, oh, well, Amanda couldn't have lifted this person up to do all this type of stuff. It does lay in there of some other shoe to drop, but there's there's absolutely no setup for Hoffman being anywhere close to being this.
Right.
Nothing.
And so we learn that the beginning is actually the end.
Yeah.
And oh my God, this might be the worst entry, other than 7.
I mean, when I was watching it, it felt so kind of episodic in a bad way.
Okay.
Because it feels like a chunk of a larger story where you didn't need to go through the highly complicated, long-winded way of getting to this point of reviewing Hoffman as being an accomplice or being the next guy to take up the mantle. Because you did nothing with Hoffman in the entire film. He has no character development throughout this film. It's all in the next film, very nicely.
Sure.
This one is like... Rick doesn't go anywhere. He just dies at the end because he just charges into everything stupidly. He doesn't act like a cop whatsoever.
Which he never learned anything from.
He didn't learn anything from. He doesn't act like a proper cop in that way because, like I said, he has a wide open opportunity to call any number of people out on the whole thing. Hey, Jigsaw's leading me on this whole thing. Let me get everyone else involved with this thing so we can make sure we can go at this right and try to deconstruct it instead of like, I'm just going to play the game like he's got a gun to my head.
Yeah, it's
a little too haphazard in how it constructs the entire narrative, in my regard.
Well, it feels like there's really only 15 minutes of story here.
Right. It's a lot more the ancillary stuff in terms of...
Flashback, inserts.
We have to have the traps. We can't not have the traps. It also feels kind of like in the third film when you have the father of the kid who died off the drunk driver. We didn't get any empathy from that guy. We didn't feel like he was a sympathetic character. It just felt all just mean-spirited stuff to a bunch of bad people going on in the background of the film.
Which they filed under the pretense of Amanda being malicious and not actually trying to teach anybody a lesson.
Right.
So that kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
But here, it's a parallel story,
mm-hmm.
But Jigsaw was actually the one perpetrating it at this point still. Right. So I guess you do have to have the traps, but I don't know. It's just
I see the story point they want to get to. I just don't think it needed to have all this stuff packed into 90 minutes for just that one piece of getting to Hoffman.
Right. Like Hoffman
setting up
reveal,
Strom as well.
That reveal is great at the end. Like, okay, I see how we're advancing the story, but it almost feels like the whole point of this movie is to set up another movie.
Yeah.
And does this one have a legit beginning, middle, and end, like a good,
an arc of some sort?
3-act structure.
There is no actual arc with anything because Rig doesn't go anywhere. Strom is still basically the same character in and out the whole film.
I guess we do have structurally a main character, an objective. We
do have acts, I will say that.
Right, we have acts, we have opposition, and, there's all the things we talk about, they're not great. It's not structured like, any other, solid sequel movie that we've covered.
Yes.
But it feels at the end like all of this was just a trailer
it's all a lot of setup
to make me want to come back a year later, a whole year later.
I mean, Rig's story could have been his own contained type of thing, but then you add Strom in there, you add a Hoffman's reveal stuff, and him eventually getting to somewhere. But they've overcomplicated the works. They could have separated different stories into separate films in a certain way. They could have saved Strom almost completely for the next film in a certain way.
Right. Because they also have the female, Lopez, is that her name?
Perez.
Just Perez.
Yeah.
Her entire story, they figured out a way to bring her back.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Because everything Strom here is just setting up what he's going to do in the second film. It has no bearing on Briggs' story at all.
Yeah, they expect me to lay, Michael Myers in the shack for 1 year.
Right.
Only to come back and hear the end of the story.
Right.
That's cheap filmmaking, in my opinion.
I think there's so much thing. Okay, I want to do this Riggs story, but we're telling you Jigsaw is kind of dead here and everything. So they're just. I think they're almost overcompensating at this point in a certain way. It's like, okay, we killed off Kramer. We still got to trick people into thinking that things are still in play or things are going in a different direction. So we still got to hook them at the end in a certain way. I feel like they're probably just a little too just overcompensating is all I can really kind of boil it down to.
Definitely the worst one yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens in the next one.
Yes. So guys, we'll get around to that
eventually.
Sooner than later.
Okay.
Sooner than later, I'll say that.
Sounds good.
So guys, thanks much.
See ya.
Bye-bye.